poor people.
They ain't shit.
Keep the rib.
We are the Great Unwashed.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Great Unwashed, a podcast for the 99%. I'm your host, Ian Mack, and today's quote comes from Michio Kaku. In string theory, all particles are vibrations on a tiny rubber band. Physics is the harmonies of the string. Chemistry is the melodies we play on vibrating strings. The universe is a symphony of strings. And the mind of God is cosmic music resonating in 11-dimensional hyperspace. And with that, I'd like to introduce my guest, Patrick Higgins. How did you get started? How did you get started writing?
Well, I would like to say that it was some lifelong goal of mine, and I kind of focused all my energy into, willing it into existence, but I really just kind of stumbled into it. I have no training as a journalist, as I'm sure my writing speaks in to that end. But no, actually, I just I kind of knew my editor from being a musician in town, and had a relationship with him that way. And he was looking for a sports writer, actually. And he threw out a Facebook comment, "Hey, does anybody know anybody who would like to cover, local sports?" And I had done some writing kind of just casually, and somebody threw my name in a hat. He reached out, and it sounded cool. I wrote an article, and I've had a, piece in the paper every week for the last 7 years because of it. So.
Right on. Well, yeah. Congratulations. That's a lot of work, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
It keeps me insanely busy, especially because I'm a freelancer. I have a day job too, so it's come Tuesday, which is my deadline for the Wednesday, I'm a frantic mess trying to get it all worked out, But,
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, my producer over here said, he was asking me, he was like, didn't you guys work together? And I was like, I was in ad sales for the weekly.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I was looking at your profile, and I was like, okay, so do you know Anthony, I guess? Okay, right on, yeah.
I thought you guys were all insane.
Well, and so everybody assumes that, right? Yeah. And every subject I speak to, I guess they just assume I have an office at the weekly, and I go in there, I punch a clock or whatever. But but no, in fact, I have never met the person who signs my paycheck. So,
oh. You ever met Bob?
I have not met him in person. We email each other, and he seems like a super nice guy via email. But no, I've never met him.
Yeah, he's chill.
I thought you guys had a fancy ride.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
that's an exclusive club of just Steve and I. We have our own private club in that regard for the cool kids.
Yeah. First off, well, here, let me start with this. So what do you do? What's your day job?
So the simple answer is I work in quality for a large pharmaceutical company.
Oh.
And I basically am in charge of basically coming up with experiments to ensure that our product is safe for consumption, basically. So, yeah.
Do you work with lab rats?
No, we don't work with animals, okay. At least in my facility. I'm a microbiologist, so I work with bacterias and molds. So, yeah.
I did not know that at all. So
yeah, well, it sounds way more glamorous than it is. I kind of generally have imposter syndrome anyway, but every time I send an email at work, my job title it's literally scientist, which just sounds so ridiculous, that they give somebody that title. But yeah, every time I see it, I almost chuckle to myself. But
it's from Half Baked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me, janitor. Oh, how's it going, scientist?
Yeah.
That's great. Wow. Okay. So, I mean, can you? We'll get back to some music in a second. But now I want to talk about microbiology.
Well, yeah. So your conversation with Loca, all about like the mycelium and all of that, like I was way into that conversation because, well, not only am I just like kind of generally obsessed with fungi, you know, but the whole tie-in with The Last of Us and the whole thing, I was like, yes, this is the content I'm here for. So yeah,
awesome. Yes, we have a fan. So have you? What kind of like? Can you talk about it?
I mean, some, right?
Okay.
Like, you know, I mean, yeah. So, you know, let's just say like, you know, we make pharmaceuticals and, you know, in order to make sure they're safe, we have certain standards we have to reach. And, my job is to make sure that the processes that we use to make them, are safe. And in order sometimes like, say we get an audit from some, you know, regulatory body and they say, well, your process does this, but how do you ensure, you know, this aspect of it? Well, then they come to me and they say, how do you answer this to this, you know, regulatory body? And so I have to kind of design a study around that. And then I give my findings and then other people kind of make the determinations based on the data that I generate.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So like, I don't use like the product like in a test subject, right? Like my job specifically is surrounding like sterility and, pyrogen free, which pyrogen is like, it's like a, you know, cast off of bacteria that makes people have a fever, right? So it's like why you can, you know, cook a piece of meat that's like has bacteria in it and you can cook it and it'll kill the bacteria, but it can still make you sick, right? Because there's these endotoxins, they're called, they're still left over. So it's my job to make sure our products are free of bacteria and or endotoxin. So
all right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you, scientist.
It's really not as glamorous as it sounds.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of just squeezing, you know, syringes into petri dishes and looking at it under a microscope.
Did you go to school for that?
I mean, kinda. I mean, I went to school for biology and, you know, quality is a great way for, you know, somebody with a science degree to get a steady job, you know.
Yeah.
I went back to school late, right? Like, so, I've only been with the company for, you know, 8 years or so. But you know, prior to that, I was, you know, loafing around trying to be a musician. And, you know, that worked out well enough where I had to go back to school and become a microbiologist. So.
Right. Awesome. I think I'm on my way. Maybe I'll see you out there in the old lab. So we're talking about music. What did you play? Which bands? And and how's it going?
I'm predominantly a bassist, right? So I currently have a little post-punk band called Understudied. That's a fairly new thing. In fact, we're recording with Peter Waringa. So he's in the process of mixing our record. So I hadn't spoken to him in a little bit, but yeah, we've let him loose on the last couple of tracks we have for this EP that we are working on. I also back a couple of singer-songwriters, Cameron Smith and Eric Osborne. They're two of my, you know, favorite musicians in town, and I'm really blessed I get to play along with those guys from time to time.
Love those guys.
And then I also have kind of another side project with Gabby Douglas from the Kush. That features Katie Robertson. We play in a couple of different iterations with Cameron and whatnot, and Tamara Brown. But yeah, I'm pretty busy, you know. You know, prior to that, the most notable thing was in a band called The Spiral Sound, kind of in the early kind of to mid-aughts, you know. Christian, our singer guitar player, he kind of still releases music under that name, but I haven't been involved in that project for about a decade.
Oh, wow.
A bass slapping microbiome.
Yeah. What's your favorite guitar? Is that a weird question? Is that a
No, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with a Fender Telecaster. I mean, I think it's just about the most perfect guitar, right? And you know, there's a whole kind of like Fender Gibson debate, and you know, I'm like, why choose? But if I had to, I'm gonna lean towards the Fender side, and the Telecaster is about as cool as it can get.
Yeah. Yeah, right on. Like, have you ever done any private experiments with like sound and things like that?
No, that's a really interesting idea. That's not something I ever thought about, but and I'm not sure how it would work with like the particular organisms that I work with, but I think generally that's an interesting question, right? Like, I don't know, maybe I listen to music all the time.
You can open it up.
What is this?
It's a touch screen. This company called Playtronica, and
Oh, wow.
it's got little wires in there. You can hook it up to anything with electricity.
So it just like closes an electrical circuit, generates a tone, or what?
Yeah, it generates whatever you've got it hooked up to, but it's
Oh, yeah.
it can convert to CV, which is like an electrical pulse.
That's really cool. Yeah,
Wow.
I wonder that would be an interesting experiment to try. The most like kind of rogue I've ever gone is like I've taken some plates home and my kids and I kind of sampled around our house just so I could get them to wash their hands because I wanted them to understand just how filthy literally everything in the world is. So.
Yeah, man. I get it. How many kids you got?
I have 2 at home. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
11 and 8. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So ours are almost the same distance apart. Mine are 2 and 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, I think you're a fair bit younger than me, so maybe like kind of right, similar time periods in our life to have kids those ages, maybe.
Yeah. How old were you?
I guess I would have been when I was 36.
Okay.
He's the 11-year-old, and then my daughter Elle, she's 8, so a couple years after that.
Yeah.
In fact, she was born kind of right before I started working for the company I work at now. And, prior to that, like Sam and I were talking about, I slung guitars and pro audio equipment at Guitar Center for like a decade. So
Yeah. Right on, man.
Yeah.
So let's jump back to the writing. What's your process? Do you have a routine while writing?
Apparently, and that routine consists of like, oh shit, my deadline is in like 2 hours and I better get going on this thing, right? Unfortunately, I'm a very deadline motivated person with all facets of my life. If I don't know exactly when I have to have it done, it's not going to get done until that exact moment. So, writing for me isn't something, kind of like interviewing, right? That isn't something that I can as much as I would want to or probably should prepare for.
Right.
It's just kind of something that happens in the moment, right?
The conversation. It's like, I feel like if you over prepare, it just comes off as like scripted and not.
Well, I think that,
not in the moment.
Yeah, and not to mention like the more interesting bits I think that you get come from those kind of meandering left turns, right? Whereas it's easy enough to just kind of answer like rote questions like. What's your favorite guitar or whatever? But
what do you like about music?
Yeah, man. So, quick aside, we did this when I was in Spiral Sound. We did this like local cable access talk show, like a Conan O'Brien Tonight Show kind of themed thing, and I can't even remember the host's name. It was out in Dallas, and this was like in the early aughts. But I remember there was a question that like we. Was like an inside joke for the band for like years afterwards. And the host just looked at our drummer and he was like, "So what do you think about those drums, Paul?" and he was like, "Yeah, I like them. Yeah." So yeah, all that to say, my writing process is pretty scatterbrained and I kind of don't really know what the piece is about until I start working on it. Right.
Do you listen to music while you write?
I can't.
No.
I can't. As much as I want to, I can't listen to music when I write. I can't listen to music when I read.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's just like my brain, wants to kind of focus on one thing kind of immersively. And I wish I could. Like sometimes I'll put on stuff that like I can kind of not pay attention to, like, jazz or classical music or whatever. but it's low volume, and it's more just kind of white noise than it is anything I'm like actively listening to.
Yeah. I have a process that every time before I get on stage, I have to listen to a Misfits song.
Okay. Yeah.
But then after that, it's like I'll keep my headphones on or my earbuds in, so nobody will like kind of
take you out of your zone.
Yeah, take me out of the
Misfits induced zone.
Yeah.
Is it a particular song or?
I kind of bounce back and forth between We Are 138.
Okay.
And hybrid moments.
Okay. Yeah. That's it's got to be among everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. The hooks that band had, man, so insane.
Yeah.
Especially considering like how incredibly dark the subject matter is. Like,
right.
I was listening, my son, he's kind of flirting with like getting into punk rock, and I'm trying to like, know where the filter is of like what I can show him. And I was like, oh dude, he's going to love the Misfits. And then I was like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah.
Like maybe he's not quite ready for, Mommy, can I go out and kill tonight? Or whatever.
Yeah. Murder songs. Last Caress. Ooh, that one's tough.
But yeah, that was the one where I was like, okay, now this is, let's go back to the Ramones.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, let's go. Yeah. Is your so do your kids know how much of a badass musician you are?
No, I mean, they know I play, right, but they've shown absolutely zero interest in anything I have to do with musically. Like sometimes I'll be listening to a new mix or something for a recording that I played on, and I'll even try to prod them like, hey, so that's me playing on there, and they're like, what do you play again? I'm like, I'm the bass player, and they're like, I can't hear the bass. I'm like, well, you and literally everybody else who's listening, who will ever hear this song, so. Yeah.
So I pull all of my material for my kids pretty much. Like that's
they're young, right?
Yeah.
So this will just be for like posterity, right?
Right.
Like once they're old enough, you can be like, here's my life's work. And,
yeah. It's all about you, buddy. Thanks for puking on me so many times. Yeah, my 6-year-old, he's always like, he doesn't know what I do.
Yeah.
Because I've been kind of in and out of the job market for a while, doing just different things. I feel like I was in a gig economy before it was even really like a thing, because I always just kind of diversified all my income because I couldn't like rely on one thing long enough to really like get a grasp of it. And I think had I started stand up like instead of going to college, I could probably have been national touring. I would probably be touring nationally at some point. And
so are you at a point where you feel now that like that's no longer like achievable or like a goal? Or
it is? I mean, it's obviously still a goal. It's just I'm much older now, so my audience base, I have to stay current on more things and give sort of, I don't know, like the observation side of it is like the observational comedy side of it is a little bit different now that I'm a little bit older.
Yeah.
Like I probably would have just been full of piss and vinegar back in the day, but whatever. I went to school for radio, television, and film.
Sounds perfect.
It sounds perfect.
So did you know, like, just based, like, did you one day speak into a microphone and go, like, I have a radio voice and I need to do this? Like, it's like, this is the first thing I noticed, like, when I listened to the pod. I was like, okay, this guy's a natural. He just has a radio. And as somebody who does not have a radio voice at all, this sounds better than I'm used to hearing myself. So I'll thank all of your studio wizardry for making that happen. Because normally, like listening to an interview playback, like I cannot stand the sound of my voice. So, yeah. So did you just know, or did you develop it? Is that a skill you can develop?
It is, yeah. So you go to in radio school, which is not even a thing anymore. Probably, I don't know. I think you just
so
go
generic, like scientist. It's just like
yeah. Well, the guy that I learned from, his name's actually, you know what? It's crazy. I didn't even think about this. The guy that I learned from, his first name is Mac.
I was gonna say, if you say his name was Ian Mac, I'm gonna fucking lose it.
Yeah. No, Mac Iperspa.
That's not real, man.
It's a name.
That's
dude.
like a name when you're like in the heat of the moment and you're looking around the room and you're just like making random vowel sounds until something comes across.
Speaker blockers.
Well, no, this guy taught like so many different like on-air personalities down in near Corpus Christi that have gone on to do, like, he did radio, television, and film. And like we learned on like the old school, like chroma key, green screens and stuff, trying to figure out how to point backwards at a map, like
yeah, right on.
And you'll see the pressure systems.
I went to North Texas like out of high school, and I initially went as a drawing and painting major, and I think going to school for art makes you realize how mediocre you are at art, because you're the first time ever you're in a room full of other artists, you know, like I'd taken art all through, you know, school growing up, and I always kind of fancied myself as like being one of the better artists in class, and so I'm like, I'm destined for this. And then you go to an art school and everybody is way better than you. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll just pick up a guitar and do that instead. But as I changed from you know, visual arts, I thought about going into RTV. North Texas has a great program for that, but instead I just started smoking a lot of weed and playing music. And so then I had to go back to school like 15 years later or something. So
well, what's interestingly enough, the day that it's like all these milestones that I had, it was like followed by something tragic. The day that I graduated from my associate degree in radio television, it was like the next day YouTube went live.
Oh wow.
So, and I had learned nothing about YouTube whatsoever.
So instantaneously, the industry you had trained for evaporated into nothingness. Yeah,
pretty much immediately. And then when I graduated from UTA in 2000, I took a little bit of time, but when I graduated from UTA, it was the end of 2009. It was like the lowest that the economy, the U.S. economy, had been since the Great Depression.
Yeah,
and
I remember that time.
Oh,
sure.
Dude, it was right around the housing bubble time.
I bought a house then. You know,
I graduated.
Tell us about that. Were you affected by that?
No. In fact, it probably was the only reason we could have bought a house then. You know, like and you know, but that's, you know, a couple of houses ago. So yeah.
Look at you.
No, not that I own a couple of houses. I just, you know, moves, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's been fucked since 2009, y'all.
Actually, 2008, because in 2008, that's when it burst, right? That's when the bubble burst.
High school in 2009.
Wow.
So I have known nothing but despair.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, basically, what it meant is your bachelor degree basically means dick.
Yeah.
And it was in communication, so it's like you can either, so getting out of college, they were like, okay, so this is the new pivot, this is the new normal. You can go be a radio DJ or you can go start working at a radio station,
Right.
which you should have already been doing, but
Yeah.
we never told you that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to go to school. Oh, no, wait, you should have been getting experience this whole time. And, random things I did, but I never actually went and worked in a studio at all throughout my entire college career, which was probably in hindsight either a really big mistake or sort of like saving myself from heartache later on.
Yeah.
But you would be making, what did they say, 12,000 a year?
Yeah. Well, it's for a young person who has no responsibility and or very limited bills. I think it's probably impossible today.
Yeah.
I think you're a little bit younger, but back when I was of college age, you could live off of $12,000 more than likely. I mean, not comfortably, but you could have enough for your electric bill and maybe some left over to buy weed for the weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can do that now.
You definitely can't.
Oh, dude.
No, you can. I mean, and it's weird because there's a lot of these young guys in the comedy scene. I don't know how big of a comedy fan, live comedy.
We were
fan
talking
you are.
earlier. I'm kind of obsessed with stand-up comedy. I'm not deep into it and know all of these comics. It's just an art form I'm fascinated by. It's one that if I could choose to do anything, if I could just snap my fingers and have a skill that I absolutely categorically do not possess, it is to do that. So
Yeah, I think last night I started kind of. I was at an open mic, and it's where I test out all my new material because the audience is constantly rotating. A lot of them just come in and don't even know that this is going on, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect test audience.
Right.
So I went in. I kind of started floundering a little bit toward the end, and I went to grab the mic stand, and it completely fell apart. And so then I was like, so I just put all of the pieces on the ground or whatever, and they got a kick out of that. And then that brought to mind a couple more jokes, kind of working the crowd a little bit, and then at the end I was like, "Oh my God, do you guys smell gas?" They were like, "That was today, dude. It's too soon." I was like, "Well, that's my time, everybody.
Oh, shit.
Run for your lives."
man, that shit was wild though.
That shit
Yeah.
was crazy.
Let's talk about that.
That's the news in 5 hours. The Russians were saying, "Oh, it was a bomb."
Yeah, right. The disinformation campaign is already in full swing.
Yeah.
That's when you know you've made it as a city, is when Moscow is pushing different disinformation about your town. Yeah.
The old Sandman. Operation Sandman complete.
I was bummed. The restaurant looked really nice. I've never.
Yeah. My wife works in the service industry, and the restaurant she worked. I mean, not that she was scheduled to work last night, but they did have to close because of all that shit. It's her place is downtown, so wild stuff for sure. I don't know if she knew anybody at that hotel, but she knew the chef or whatever.
Yeah. Did they? I mean, everybody. They said there was 11 people injured or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's more than last I'd heard, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I hadn't followed it super closely, except for kind of in the moment. And it's a kind of a wild thing. And, it's weird where your brain goes, in a situation like that, where you kind of go through this cycle of man, that'd be fucked up. It was a terrorist attack. And then you're like, man, that's a fucked up thought. Why are you even thinking about that? What's wrong with you? And then you're like, well, but isn't it a logical thought, and you just kind of get kind of in a wormhole of your own, reasoning around it. And then
spiraling.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I do that a lot. There's what's even crazier is I was planning on going downtown with my son.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I was and something happened, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go take care of this tomorrow when you're at school, because he didn't go back to school until today.
Oh
Today's his first day back.
Same for our kids.
Yeah. And so, I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And wifey was like, hey, I'm glad, I'm really glad you guys didn't go downtown.
Right,
I was
yeah.
like, yeah, me too, man. That was wild. I sent her that, and she was like, what?
Yeah, well, it's one of those situations where you have to have a conversation. You could potentially have to have a conversation with your kid that you weren't prepared to have.
Yeah.
Like I remember during like the social justice protests. A handful of years ago, kind of like right before COVID, or maybe it was like right after, kind of in the mix of it all. Like we were all at home and watching the news, and we're watching a protest kind of on the, Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge or whatever in Dallas. And my kids are asking like, well, what's going on? And they're like, well, this is a big can of worms we're about to open up. I'm about to burst your bubble on how like perfect you think it is to live in this country. And, yeah, it's hard to know sometimes like what to lay on them, without, kind of trying to dumb it down or water it down. But,
Yeah, my son was when COVID hit. My son had he had not even he hadn't turned 3 yet. He was still 2 years old, and so when we were all quarantining and everything, and the one person to go and do all of the things, to
like, risk their lives to provide for the family,
what I did was with all the stimulus money, whatever extra money that I did, I bought tools, and I would just go and like build things for people, right? So I had this.
That's a much more noble endeavor than what I did. I just bought records and, maybe like I actually did buy a bunch of like vintage hi-fi equipment. I like
nice,
I bought some Euro racks.
Nice. Hey, that's what it's for, to stimulate the economy, right? It was a hard time, I did my part as an American to buy, worthless shit. So
yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what, the Milwaukee Tool Company, they got a lot of my money. I'll tell you that. They got stimulated from me for sure. But one of the things I got was I also got like a commercial grade paint sprayer, and was like staining people's fences and stuff for extra cash. And
you were like a hero.
Thank you for saying that. Jeez, it's about time somebody noticed. No, so I had this. I didn't really want to talk to people. That was the thing. Is like, in my mind, like we're in this crazy ass time. I don't know which way it's gonna unfold or whatever. I thought I spiraled a lot and thought that the world was ending. And it
seemed uncertain there for a moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm still still kind of on that shaky ground, I mean, obviously it is, but, just kidding. So, one of the things that I had was like a respirator mask for painting, with the two, like, I mean, heavy,
like the full Breaking Bad, outfit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's how I would go to the grocery store. I would go in there like that, would just like have my cans on, dude, like headphones, and just walking around with this big crazy mask and like these things. I got no conversations. Nobody like wanted to stand near
wearing
me.
Your earbuds, like, but to an extreme, end, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and then doing that there, and then also at like Lowe's and stuff. That was fun because I
bet you they like a lot of doomsday prepper like crossover. They were like, finally, I knew like the shit I've been building in my house is finally going to be worth something. It's going to be useful finally.
There's a lot of memes about that, dude. Doomsday preppers. When they hear
See,
about
I
this.
fucking told you.
Yeah.
Who's laughing now, John?
Yeah. I think my parents even have some like MREs that they stashed away or something.
Dude, okay, so the weird aside about that is, so growing up, my maternal grandmother was Mormon, and I don't mean to disparage Mormons or like paint with a broad brush, but it's my understanding that at least at the time it was common practice amongst that religion to kind of have a store of supplies for the end times, right? Because like I guess there's some delay between like the rapture and like when everybody gets to go or whatever. So these like things or these meals or pre-prepared rations or whatever were there for that time period, between the rapture and the ascension or whatever it's called, right? The problem is like my grandmother moved like every year or so, like when I was a kid. So we had to move this shed full of just like big ass cans of food, jars of food, like just we moved that shit every year for like my entire childhood. And so, yeah, I think of Doomsday Prepper. I think of my grandmother waiting on the rapture.
Did you guys ever eat any of it?
Hell no. Oh. No. No, I didn't even know what was in there. Like, It was like shit I wouldn't eat if it was like fresh in front of me.
Succotash.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It was like some word that's like long lost from like modern day food lexicon, like.
Wasn't succotash, wasn't that or it was either succotash or it was beans in that old Daffy Duck.
I was going to say that's my only, only place I ever heard that word was like Sylvester the cat.
Yeah,
right?
suffer and succotash.
Yeah,
but when Daffy gets stuck on a desert island, I think is it Daffy that gets stuck on a desert island? I can't remember.
That was like a common trope, right?
Yeah, and they were like constantly trying to get to this food that was like I don't know. He finally gets like one can, but he doesn't have the can opener.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
What is succotash?
It's like a bean thing, right?
I think it's like beans, cabbage, onion, something like that. It's like a medley.
Yum.
Yeah.
It sounds good. Like I may have a form of succotash like every New Year's Day. I guess, like with the peas and cabbage or whatever.
Yeah.
We would never call it that.
Oh, chow chow.
Yeah.
Well, New Year's succotash.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna call it. Call it that from now on.
My kids will never eat it ever again. All I know about succotash is it makes you suffer. They're like, I'm not eating that.
Yeah, it gives you a lisp too.
The verbiage reminds me of spam.
Spam?
Yeah.
Hey man, shout out to Hawaii, all my Hawaii listeners out there, dude. Let's talk about spam. Did you ever had a fried spam?
Yeah, I have. I always thought that was kind of like a stereotype about Hawaiians, but it's not at all.
No,
it's like a for real thing,
and they have different flavors too.
Yeah. It's not bad. I mean, it's like certain people like will be like turn their nose up at it like it's like some inferior food product, but it's like it's no more processed than literally anything else. Like you think a slice of deli turkey is any less processed than that spam? It's not.
No, dude. In high school. Yeah, high school in South Texas. In a PE class, right? I was in a PE class, and a girl came in, and they would always have like homemade tacos from their mothers, like from their moms and stuff. And so like they would make these tacos like bean, egg, and spam. Right.
Yeah.
Like a breakfast taco.
Yeah, I bet that. I mean, that sounds pretty good to me.
It was
honestly.
fucking delicious, dude. And that was my first kind of introduction into like what spam could really be. It can
how
be
you can
delicious.
elevate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to spam.
Yeah. Maybe it's a future sponsor there.
Hey man, we're gonna take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for an authentic Italian experience? Check out Bocca, Osteria, Romana. It's all handmade pasta. Focaccia. 100% Italian wine list.
There's so much wine. Which one do I choose?
Fantastic fun for everyone.
Everyone's having fun, but I am having way more fun than everyone.
So for a taste of the old country, join us at Bocca, Osteria, Romana.
Salvatore, what are you doing with those raviolis?
Reserve your experience today using the Resi
You're
app.
crazy.
Ciao, y'all.
We didn't. Do you drink?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Damn it.
It sounded a little too enthusiastic.
Yes. I'm drunk now. Sorry I didn't pour you anything. When we eventually do get sponsors, so you guys keep smashing that fucking like button, whatever. Once we get some sponsors, it'll be our little breaks will be replaced with actual paid advertisement. What's your go-to drink?
I'm a simple man. I just like a neat whiskey,
Yeah.
And I'm not particular about it, obviously there's good and there's tolerable, but
Yeah. JMO?
that's fine.
Yeah. Quick shot.
Yeah. I mean, I think just price point wise, like I'm pretty faithful to TX and Woodford for what they are,
Yeah. I like TX.
Yeah, I do too. I get a lot of whiskey snobs will be like, blended whiskey, but who cares? It's distilled in our backyard and it tastes good. So
yeah.
Have you been up there?
No, I've heard it's cool though.
It's
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool. And they got those little plugs, the little leather plugs on every cork.
Yeah, during COVID, I amassed quite an extensive collection of those. They're in some like wire chicken basket. It's like a basket in the shape of a chicken, but yeah, it's just full of leather top TX whiskey corks. So
Nice, dude. All right, so we're gonna get back into it. The biology, right? You went to
Yeah.
you go to school for biology. How did you decide to do that?
Well, I've always been interested in science. In fact, when I was a kid, the first thing I ever wanted to be when I grew up was a paleontologist. And that's like not a profound thing to say now.
Yeah.
In fact, every kid's into dinosaurs now, but this was like in the 80s. And the extensive geared towards kid dinosaur, propaganda machine did not exist. And I remember being a little 5-year-old hauling around this encyclopedia of dinosaurs that the thing weighed 20 pounds. I mean, it was a massive tome of a book, and I was just obsessed with it. But not to say science has always kind of been an area of interest, and biology has the least amount of math. So
Nice.
I decided that's what I wanted to do.
Right on. And so, like, you're going to school. You're going to school for this degree,
Mm-hmm.
and then, like, how does that work? Do you then specialize in microbiology? Is that how that
No,
kind of
like,
happens?
with
or-
everything else in my life, it kind of just worked out.
Cool.
I had a friend who kind of went back to school like maybe 2 years before I did, and she kind of graduated kind of before I did, and got established at this place. And when the time came for me to graduate, she was like, "Hey, you should check it out." And she got my foot in the door, and it kind of just has worked out since. So
Awesome.
yeah, my initial plan was like, oh, I'll continue and I'll get a graduate degree and I'll be a professor. That was kind of like, when I went back to school as like a 35-year-old or whatever I was, I thought like, was really impressed with like the professors. And I was like, it's a gig I could do, there was one professor in particular, Corey Rolke, who was my zoology professor. And this was a really cool guy. I would see him at the bar afterwards, at nights and whatnot. He was a falconer. He brought his falcon to class one day, which was really sweet. It flew kind of all over the lecture hall. And I was like, okay, so that's what I'll do. And then, I kind of got this job and realized like, it required A, no more school, and B, it was a steady, reliable gig, so like, my position, well, coming up, my positions are mandated, like in order to sell our product, you have to have these positions. I've kind of established myself beyond that, to this point. So it's like the first time I've not had like 100% job security, but like, I think I'm okay right now.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Job security. It's a foreign phrase to me. I just feel like I've always been scrambling to just get that paper.
No, I do, and it was a foreign feeling, to have it, and I certainly don't underestimate the value of it for sure.
Right. You sound like my 6-year-old when I asked him what he wanted to be when he was, I guess he was 4 at the time. I asked him, I said, what do you want to be? And he stumbled over the word, but he said paleontologist.
Yeah.
At 4 years old,
Yeah.
paleontologist. I'm like, okay, cool, man. And he's like, yeah, no. And he knows all of the dinosaur names.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
Well, I think like
kind of-
as a 4-year-old, you kind of, that's like when you really have it all figured out, and
Yeah.
you just kind of slowly acquiesce to societal pressures to kind of, sacrifice that part of you that so well as a 4-year-old. It's just like slowly giving away little pieces of you until you reach an adult, which is when you've given it all away,
It's like the end of Step Brothers at the Catalina wine mixer. I always wanted to be a dinosaur.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. My so then a year later I asked him, okay, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And he changed it on me. He said, I want to be a mushroom doctor.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa,
Wow.
dude. It's like, have you been listening to my conversations?
Yeah, he got into your podcast stash already.
Yeah. But
Okay, so I was going to ask, like,
Yeah.
a doctor of mushrooms or for them?
yeah, he just couldn't say mycologist.
Yeah,
he was just, he was like, mushroom doctor. And I was like, you mean a mycologist? He was like, yeah, I can't say that. I was like, okay, cool. So,
Well, I think there's a future for him in that industry, I think.
absolutely. I'm like, I want him to go and
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other day we were listening to, I don't know, we were listening to the radio or something, just driving in the car. And he said, I want to be a Texas Ranger when I grow up. And I was like an officer or like a baseball player?
yeah.
He was like, like an officer. And I was like, okay, well,
Actually,
let's put a pin in that.
not as a Texas Ranger, like
Yeah.
that's like for real law enforcement, but
Yeah.
like another job for a recent, biology grad is, kind of like Texas wildlife. I forget the name of the freaking, establishment, whatever, but Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'll just like go live on some sort of wildlife refuge and just kind of be there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And,
game warden is like that has a very, like, you can do basically anything you want as a game warden, dude. You can carry any
you gotta
kind of
work
weapon
your way
that you
up
want.
to it, but I looked. I had kind of an in with the people that run Fossil Rim.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, and so my wife and I had to have a very long, serious discussion about like, could we live like out there, and I had young kids, so it all worked out the way I think it was supposed to.
By the way, if you haven't been to Fossil Rim, it's trying just gaining
welcome
sponsorship.
Fossil Rim to sponsorship, along with Spam and whatever else.
Spam and TX whiskey.
Yeah, there you go. It's the trifecta, the Texas trifecta, we call it.
That's right, baby. Just roll your window down. There's a giraffe that'll come right up to your window.
When my wife and I were dating, she drove a Honda Del Sol. Do you remember this car? Little, two-door sports car. The roof came off.
Yeah.
So we're like, we'll go to Fossil Rim and we'll like take the roof off. So we were like going and get to the part with the giraffes, and dude, there were literally 4 of them, and they had their heads like in our laps, just like gnawing at the bag. You know, like, I mean, it was really cool. But also very scary because they're very big. Their heads are massive. They don't look that big that far away because they're so high up. But.
You watch them fight, man. That's fucking.
Oh wow! Do they fight?
Yeah, you've not seen them?
No,
dude.
They swing their head. That's what it's for, and they knock the other guys.
Dude, that's crazy.
They kill each other.
Yeah.
Wow.
They use their necks, dude. Wham.
Dude,
That momentum.
Yeah.
And
Their necks
hard
are
balls
so
on there.
strong.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That makes them even more terrifying.
Yeah. And they have those long black tongues, dude.
Yeah.
Ugh.
They're
Ugh.
weird. Yeah.
They're weird. They're weird animals, man.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, giraffes, check. No, okay. So we mentioned you said you were listening to the Loca episode and the mycelium. You really liked it. So
Give us the professional opinion.
Yeah, let's talk with an actual scientist.
Well, so a quick qualifier: I am not a mycologist.
Right.
And then, I work with some molds and yeasts that are just kind of commonly found, and they're basically ubiquitous around, right?
Right.
But I do have a fascination with mycology. He mentioned like a fairy ring, right? Which is a ring of the fruiting body of the fungus that grows in a ring. And you see that, and they grow, but what most people don't realize is like under the ground is like the actual organism, which is the entire width of that. And he mentioned, or maybe it was you, that there was those mycelia networks that can be like miles wide, and I think the biggest one is in England, and it's something like 30 miles in diameter.
Yeah,
it's like one organism.
Yeah,
that is just this network of fibers that exists underground, and it's mostly microscopic, which is insane to think about. But
now that we're back on this subject, a friend of mine sent me this. Hang on.
How deep down are they?
That I don't know. I think they're fairly surfacial. Like they, I don't think they go too deep.
You just don't see that shit.
Yeah, and they're super important for like the maintenance of the soil, right? Like they're the key. I don't know. Like they're part of like the recycling of nutrients in the soil, and most plants have a symbiotic relationship with it. That it wards off certain pathogens, and in fact most of the defenses we have against bacteria are derived from fungi, and so naturally plants will have a symbiotic relationship with the mycelia fungus, because it's a natural deterrent to pathogens that could harm the plant. And it's fascinating stuff.
So there's a colossal fungal growth. It's estimated to be around 20 years old. It's the inedible species, but it is how big is this? This mushroom is measured to be 10.85 meters, 35 feet, 35 feet, 7 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's wild, right?
That's crazy to me. That reminds me of I don't know if you've watched Sonic the Hedgehog 2, when he goes to the actual.
Who hasn't?
Yeah.
But,
I mean, you got kids,
like
dude.
There was like any question whatsoever. Actually, that's the one with Knuckles.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've been in a room where it was on.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, just the beginning of it with Eggman in the mushroom. The mushroom kingdom, not the mushroom kingdom, but the world of mushrooms or whatever. I always thought that was.
They put it in for the parents.
They definitely put it in for the parents.
Okay, maybe I'll have to go watch it. I always love when they
hard for Mario.
Hard. Yeah. He's just like, mushrooms. Mario's rad. That was my.
I thought it was really good. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a live action. And I'm sitting in the theater, and they're playing all these.
No, they tried that.
Yeah,
that's what I was hoping for. I was hoping,
like a reboot or a sequel, pick up right after
they said,
Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo vehicle left off.
Yeah, it's like they got Jack Black, and we've got who was the voice of Mario? Was
Chris
Pratt, right?
Chris Pratt, yeah.
I almost said Penn, but no, Chris Penn is a very different actor.
I was expecting Chris Pratt dressed up as
Chris
Mario.
Penn, Chris Pine.
And then
Do you remember Chris Penn? Are you old enough to know Chris Penn? Sean Penn's brother?
Yeah. Well, there was what movie was he in that we would know?
He was always like a bit player and mafia type movies. I seem to remember in the 90s, but I can't recall a single one right now.
Okay, let's shift gears here. Have you had a psychedelic experience?
Yeah, it's been.
I mean, you're a musician.
It's been a while, but I mean, there was a period where life seemed like one long psychedelic experience. So,
Yeah.
I'm more, I guess, mature now. Not that you need to be, or you're not mature if you still partake. In fact, most everybody I know does. But I just, for some reason, I haven't found the right environment and moment to try it again. My
Right, all
wife
set
and I
and
we
setting.
talk about it sometimes, but
Yeah. I think every now and again it's a good reset, to sort of I've got a buddy of mine who or I say a buddy of mine, a guy I just met, but he was talking about like doing like kind of shamanistic like mushroom therapy for people, and I was like, I kind of want to try that, like sound, like complete with like sound baths and
oh
like,
yeah, man,
and,
like the headways that have been made in like the mental health applications of psychedelic mushrooms, I think is like one of the few bright spots in like popular culture that we can point to, things that are developing in a positive way, right? Because I can tell you categorically that the most fun I've ever had in my entire life, like if I could name the top 10 experiences, at least 5 of them were on mushrooms, right?
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Back in the day, it was like a Thanksgiving Day tradition for me and my, band roommate buddy, what group or whatever would be. You'd go, you eat a lot of food at your family's house, and then you'd come back to our place and then eat mushrooms and trip until dawn. And it was,
That's awesome.
yeah, seriously the most fun.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I've got some buddies like that. We did a back in the day when all those different like sort of forms of mescaline hadn't been like the synthetic mescaline hadn't been I guess outlawed or whatever, because
Right.
there was just so many different like forms of it that you would just sort of tweak this one thing and then you've got like a whatever. Well, we tried it and all of us had a similar experience, just like honeycombing shapes in everything that we saw. But one guy, my best friend, didn't get to experience it all because he had a terrible stomach cramp.
Oh, wow.
Like the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that sucks. So it kind of like took us out of that. But I've always wanted to try peyote.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But
I hear that can be rough on the stomach, though.
it can be, and it can be, not only can it be rough on the stomach, but it can also like you can get very sick if you're not, if you don't like.
See, I wouldn't trust my, like, I wouldn't know how to dose,
Exactly.
Like, you would have to find somebody like super trustworthy that could like help you figure it out,
Well,
'cause,
yeah.
like,
There's actually like a church of peyote. Like they actually put you in a sweat lodge
oh yeah,
for a couple of days, right? You go in and out of that, and you do like saunas and like sort of sweat out all the toxins or whatever. Which I just found out that sweating out toxins that's not really what the body does, right? Did you know that? You don't really sweat out.
there's
Alcohol.
probably there's some molecules that can get passed out that way, but no, I mean that's what your liver and your endocrine system is for. So
Right. What's coming up?
Yeah. What is there? You got anything on the horizon, musically or?
So yeah, my band Understudied. It's kind of a post-punk band, kind of right, if you like, I don't know, Fugazi, Television, that kind of thing.
Sweet. Speaking my language now, dude.
We've got an EP coming out, hopefully springtime. In the process of doing the whole mixing part, which man, I gotta hand it to audio engineers. Like there was like a part of my life where I thought that's what I wanted to do with my life, and tried it out for a little bit and realized it was not for me. And I envy, or like am incredibly humbled by the work that those guys put in. Like, I mean, it's incredible the amount of work that is involved in making a record. even sound shitty as like I can attest to any record I made by myself when I had my studio, much less to make one that sounds listenable. So, yeah, I got that going on, and then still playing a little bit with some other groups, and I hate to be corny, New Year's resolution guy, but I do have hopefully some plans to work on kind of some of my own stuff at some point this year.
Oh, sorry.
I guess we didn't take that out. Professional right after.
Yeah, speaking of all the hard work that engineers do, like
I was just about to say, perfect timing.
Nobody else heard it. Okay.
Yeah, audio engineers are geniuses.
I didn't say they were geniuses. I said they worked hard.
So where can we find so solo project coming up soon?
Well, we'll see if that sees the light of day.
Okay.
Like
All right.
it may go on the pile with the stupid novel that I'm working on and all this other crap that I have.
A novel, you say? What is it? Can you? No, you don't.
No.
Okay, don't want to speak it to left. Okay.
Well, you'll have to come back. And
Yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah.
In 2034, when this is the number one podcast in America.
That's right. Look out, Joe Rogan. We're coming.
The Joe Rogan, AI replacement bot.
Who's Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I'm not even sure he's still alive.
Okay. Well, you got to get the.
Oh yeah. Here's one thing that is probably going to make you super uncomfortable.
Oh, good.
But
Perfect.
But you've listened to the podcast. Give our audience one piece of advice.
Well, okay. So I think, I alluded to like having all of these things like I want to do, right? On top of all of the things that I already do, right? Like I have a full-time job. I freelance for, the local weekly, and I play in several different bands, and I still want to write a novel, and I want to do all of this. And, over, having time off over the Christmas break, I think I came to a really profound realization where it's just like I had all of this time that I thought I was going to be able to use to do all of these productive things. And like I was going to be able to write, at least a little bit every day. And I was going to, read at least 2 books over the break and all this thing. And I did none of that shit. And it was great. And I think you got to listen to your body. And you listen to your mind more than anything, right? Because like everybody, you're physically exhausted, right? Just generally, but like being emotionally and mentally exhausted is you've got to pay attention to that, and you've just got to take time to defrag, or else you will never have the energy to take on those other things that you want to do. So
Yeah, self-care.
yeah, it's a hard lesson to learn. I'm kind of a go kind of person, and
Same.
yeah, I mean, you seem like it, right?
Yeah.
And, but yeah, listen to yourself. Do nothing when you think you should be doing something. Sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah. Don't do nothing all the time.
Yeah,
Do what you got to
I
do.
mean, unless you can. I mean, I envy that life. People talk about like, oh, well, I don't know if I could ever retire. I don't know what I'd do with myself. Like, I could figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
give me that non-work life. But
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what does retirement even look like?
Well, I think age-wise, I'm probably going to be the vanguard of the generation that doesn't retire.
Yeah.
Like it's literally just not an achievable goal.
Right.
And so I don't know, I hope to one day find out, that'd be nice to think that like you could, do the stereotypical buy an RV and travel the country, or what part of it isn't underwater. I don't know, but, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll, have time to finish that stupid novel by then. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, That was a bleak end to, we're just going to rock this motherfucker till the wheels fall off. That's what we're going to do.
Remember, folks, do nothing and work till you die. Those are the two things you can take away from this.
There's one takeaway. Oh, man. Well, thank you so much for coming out, dude.
Thank you. It was a good time.
Yeah, check out all these projects that we got going on. I'm assuming Spotify is a good place.
Yeah. Understudied, to be soon or whatever, and then check out Cameron Smith from Fort Worth and Eric Osborne. They're both local singer-songwriters, and
love those guys.
I have been able to play on a couple of songs for them. In fact, Cameron's kind of halfway through a full-length record right now that we're working on with Morris, who plays with Simon. You mentioned that you guys had talked to him, and a couple of other really super talented people. So yeah, excited about that for sure. That should be hopefully springtime on that, I would think.
It's been a lot of fun. I will purposefully now pick up a weekly and for the first time ever, and
maybe I will too. Yeah, there's good shit in there apparently, or at least stuff that cause a stir, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you all for listening to another episode of the Great Unwashed podcast for the 99%. I've been your host, Ian Mack. Thank you to my guest, Mr. Patrick Higgins. Good night, Gulf Shores, Alabama.
For more information on today's podcast and other Great Unwashed content, visit greatunwashedpodcast.com and follow Ian at Ian Mack Presents.